Welcome to the Sunriver Anglers Fly Tying Corner for this month. I'm going to tie an Olive Soft Hackle. This is a pattern I really like to fish in rivers during blue wing olive hatches on the Fall River or the Crooked River during spring and fall. I also like this pattern a lot for the Mother's Day hatch out on the Crooked River. It represents a really good imitation of an emerging caddis when you let it swing down toward the bottom of your drift. As it swings up toward the surface, trout will take it with reckless abandon. It's an excellent little soft hackle pattern, and it's tied uniquely. I use a glass bead in the thorax of the fly to add a subtle amount of weight. But more importantly, this glass bead is tied just behind the hackle on this fly, and it allows the hackle to be splayed out very, very widely, so it fishes with some life and some motion as the water pushes it downstream. So give this pattern a try. I think you'll like it. Now let's cover the materials one by one. For a hook, I'm going to use a Firehole 317 size 16. This is a scud or pupa or clink hammer hook that's got a 1x wide gape and a medium wire, and it's really a nice hook for a soft hackle. For the thread, I'm going to use 14-aught Beavis thread in olive. For the bead, I'm using a clear glass seed bead, and I get these at a local craft store. Actually, I stole these out of my wife's bead inventory to use for fly tying. Don't tell her, because she doesn't know. For the abdomen, I'm going to use a biot off a Spirit River olive goose quill, wing quill. For the thorax dubbing, I'm going to use a mix of J. Fair's seal sub dubbing in a brown olive, and I use about 75% and then 25% ice dub in peacock, and it makes for a really nice thorax blend. And lastly, for the hackle, I'm going to use a feather off the back of a partridge. So let's get started tying this pattern. I'm going to place a bead on the hook and put the hook in my vise, and then I'm going to tie on my thread right in advance of the bead, right up near the head of the fly. I'm going to build up a little base layer so that I can keep that bead pushed back so I have enough room to tie in the hackle. Then I'm just going to merely hop over the bead with my thread and tie over the back of the fly. So I've selected out one biot off the trailing edge of the wing feather that I'm using, and I'm going to go ahead and tie this on right up near the bead and wind it all the way back around part of the curve of the hook. And then I'll gradually build up a thread base leading back up to the eye to create a nice taper on this pattern. So before I start tying in the biot, I'm going to place a little bit of glue on the abdomen of this fly. I like to tie a biot into a bed of glue so that I'm giving it some strength. Biots can break easily in trout teeth, and so I just want to add some strength to this pattern. And so then I'll go ahead and wind the biot forward all the way up to the glass bead in nice segmented wraps. I've got the I've got an opaque side back and a translucent side forward. So I get a nice little segmentation effect as I wind this forward. So next, I'm going to spin some dubbing onto my thread and go ahead and wrap this right against the back side of the bead. And I'll keep it kind of spiky. As I wind this onto the thread, I'm building a little bit of a rope as I spin it around the thread and leaving some of those spiky edges kind of hanging loose and creating that life and flow of a soft hackle out of the dubbing. So now I've selected my Hungarian partridge feather and I've put the tip of that feather in my hackle pliers, and I'll go ahead and pull back all of the remaining barbs, and then I'm just going to grab that little tip and snip it off and leave just a touch there to go ahead and tie that in uh, right ahead of the bead. That'll give the thread something to grab onto when I tie this in. And so wind with a few winds of thread and then go ahead and wind this hackle probably with about 2 turns and tie it off and clip off the excess. If I've got some hackle barbs that are not lying quite where I want them to, I'm just going to reach in and snip those out. Sometimes when I fold this hackle, some of the barbs want to tend to jump forward rather than fold in that nice curve backwards. So I'm going to get rid of those and leave myself with a nice clean hackle. And the last step on this fly is to whip finish and clip off the excess thread. And I can put just a touch of glue on the head if I wish, or it's not necessarily needed. So lastly, let me rotate this around in the vise so you can see all sides of this Olive Soft Hackle. So that has been your Sunriver Anglers Fly Tying Corner for this month. I hope you'll give the Olive Soft Hackle a try. This has been a really good pattern out on Fall River, on the Crooked, and some other rivers that I've fished over time. If you like what you see, please subscribe to this YouTube page. And please visit us at Sunriver Anglers on Facebook. Thanks for watching.